Good evening and welcome to This Is The Day. My name is Sarah Otieno. We are live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio. And thank you so much for those who have been with us on radio for the last 2 hours and counting on, and on Family TV. Thank you so much for joining in today. Use the WhatsApp number 0786 316 316 and talk to us also through the SMS line 20316, on Facebook and Twitter at Family Radio 316. Well, today we'll be looking at some of the stories that are making headline across the country and also across the globe. And talking of police brutality, it has been making headline last week and even this week. We'll be talking to one of the experts and really trying to find out if indeed the police service is an independent body, talking of political influence, and also how can we help to stop police brutality in our communities. Well, that and much more coming up, but now let's start off. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha has accused the WHO of doublespeak regarding the reopening of schools amidst the coronavirus pandemic. Speaking in Kitale in Trans Nzoia County earlier today, while assessing the level of preparedness for a local technical institution to reopen, the CS dismissed calls for reopening of schools, saying it's not safe to do that at the moment. The tough-talking Magoha rubbished calls by the WHO and the United Nations Children's Fund, that is UNICEF, for reopening of learning institutions in Africa, saying the lives of learners are more important.
HAT, or is it WHO or UNICEF? Secondly, the next question Bwana Chichabai should answer for me. The same WHO is double speaking. And Magoha Sanomawan, you can take it to the bank. Because they have given us protocols which apply to everybody else. First of all, I want you to remember that there are Asian countries that are worse than many African countries. That is a fact. So they have given us protocols which we must do, but they think because we are Africans, it is okay. We can ignore. Is somebody trying now to use us as guinea pigs or what? I think as far as we are concerned as government, we love our children.
Well, still on the same note, this is what the WHO said, and I'll be reading. Keeping students at home in a bid to protect them from COVID-19 infection is harming them in other ways, the WHO and UNICEF said in a statement on Friday. And according to the WHO, the impact of an extended education disruption is significant and stretches beyond the learning institution into homes. This is just a segment of what the WHO and the UNICEF said. And now the professor of the CS for Education, Professor George Magoha, said that just because we are Africans, that is why the WHO is actually willing to expose our children by giving advice that schools can be reopened just because we are Africans. And he said they might be using us as guinea pigs. So are you in agreement with this view by the Professor CS for Education, George Magoha? And please give me your reasons if you are in agreement with this view, and if you are against, please also give us some of your views. Use the WhatsApp number 0786 316 316, SMS line 20316. Now, talking of our COVID-19 situation in the country, and Kenya's number of the declared coronavirus cases has risen by 193 and reaches 32,557 today. This is after an analysis of 3,381 samples that were tested in the last 24 hours. Now, the government announced the country's first case of the disease in March 13th, following the discovery in Wuhan in China on December 31st, 2019. And it's in its daily briefing, the health ministry also announced 225 more recoveries and 6 more deaths, raising the total count to 18,895 and 554 respectively.
Today, 193 people have tested positive, following the testing of 3,381 samples over the last 24 hours. This now brings the number of cumulative positives in the country to 32,557, and our cumulative tests to 425,364. The 193 cases being reported today are all Kenyans except for 3 who are foreigners. 137 are males, 56 are females. The youngest is a 2-month-old infant. On a positive note, 225 patients have recovered from the disease. Of these, 188 have been discharged from the home-based care program, while 37 have been discharged from various health facilities that they have been receiving care. The total number of recoveries now stands at 18,895. And I want to thank our healthcare workers for this great achievement. On a sad note, we have lost 6 patients to the disease, bringing our fatalities to 554. And our sincere condolences to the families and friends of all those who have lost their loved ones.
Well, in regards to the 21-day strike notice by health workers, the CAS urged health workers to continue helping and enter a dialogue with the ministry.
As a ministry, our aim, especially during this COVID pandemic, is to ensure that our response to the COVID pandemic does not falter. And it will falter if the most prized element of this response, who are our healthcare workers in the front line, decide to down their tools. So ours is to appeal to our healthcare workers to be able to continue to render these important services at this critical time, but at the same time enter into dialogue on the grievances that they may have. And I can assure you that as a ministry, we are working together also with the counties and the aggrieved parties in trying to address these grievances. And there are discussions ongoing. The ministry will be putting it in its effort in trying to diffuse this situation and to avert this strike, because we cannot afford to have a strike at this point in time. And again, to our healthcare workers, it's not the right time for us to be able to engage in this type of unrest when we have serious concerns about saving people's lives in this pandemic.
All right, there we have it. And as Kenyans, as the common mwananchi, we actually hope that the Ministry of Health and also the health workers will come into an agreement to prevent the repercussions of this strike. You're saying, I really don't understand this, Magoha. He is now rejecting advice from the WHO and UNICEF. He seems to want to have his way and only his way. Well, your name is Shisia. Thank you so much for tuning in and for contributing to today's topic. Martin Dungu, asante sana for tuning in. Rosie wa Kisumu pia, thank you for joining the discussion today. Remember, we are talking about the statement that was given by CS Professor George Magoha. And he said the WHO is misleading us and says that just because we are Africans, that is why they are proposing the reopening of schools. And his statement was, could they be using us as guinea pigs? Send in your responses on that and what you feel about this angle that the CAS has taken to 20316. That is the SMS line. WhatsApp platform 0786 316 316. And we'll be reviewing some of your feedback. Thank you, Albert, for tuning in. And huyu anaitwa nani? Sarah wa Naivasha, and you're saying Magoha has a point. How about other countries try reopening their schools? We have not seen of such. South Africa opened their schools and now they are back to closing like no one's business. So let us be a bit patient. Thank you so much for tuning in. Also send in your responses regarding the discussion that we are having today. But in the meantime, the ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi has urged President Uhuru Kenyatta to set up a judicial inquest to probe the alleged theft of the COVID-19 fund, adding that loss of money at the MOH, that is Ministry of Health, is a threat to his legacy. He said Kenya may lose the support of donors community if proper measures are not put in place to act against graft. And he said the Office of the Auditor General may take too long before it embarks on investigation into the alleged loss of funds.
Na kile ambacho mimi napendekeza leo ni kwamba kupitia kwa uwezo wa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, ana uwezo kupitia kwa ile sheria ya Commission of Inquiry Act, ana uwezo wa kipekee, uwezo ambao hakuna mtu yeyote mwingine ambao nao, aunde tume ya kisheria ya judicial ambayo itachunguza wale ambao wamehusika na ufisadi katika Wizara ya Afya, na watoe mapendekezo bila wasiwasi, bila kutishwa, ili tujue ni kina nani wamehadaa wa Kenya. Lakini tukisema tu tutegemea upelelezi wa kawaida, ndugu na dada, wengine mtangoja miaka 5, miaka 6. Wengine hatujui ya Mungu ni nini. Wengine labda hamutakuwa hai wakati hiyo ripoti inatoka, tukifuata ule mtindo wa kawaida. Na tusipopigana na ufisadi ili watu waone kwamba it is now an expensive affair kucheza na ufisadi, tutazidi kuona watu, badala ya watu kuogopa, ndio wanapata mori zaidi ya kuendelea na ufisadi.
Well, still on the same, religious leaders have expressed their concerns following reports that alleged businessmen have exploited the COVID-19 pandemic fraudulently to deprive Kenyans of the so much needed medical supplies to actually fatten their bank accounts. Led by Bishop Mark Kariuki, the leaders want the entire government machinery to expedite investigations and prompt a prosecution for all those that are found culpable.
It is most regrettable that some well-meaning donors have already given notice of withdrawing medical aid which was meant to benefit HIV, AIDS, and malaria patients to the tune of 400 billion. That is how costly the theft of public resources can be. How long are we going to keep quiet? And a few men and a few women are stealing money that is supposed to have helped the Kenyans. Uhuru is fighting corruption. How long is this corruption going to be fought?
The church is not replacing the opposition, but the church is raising a concern that is real today.
We've been watching what is happening, the movement that's being done.
Well, religious leaders there. Paris from Kabete, thank you for tuning in and for your response. I also see Nehemiah from Rongai, Steve Wagilgil. We'll be sampling some of the responses in a few minutes. But for now, still in the matters of the COVID-19 fund. Now, 4 activists were today morning arrested during a protest in Nakuru, where residents were pressuring the government to arrest those involved in stealing the funds. Police accused the 4 by the name Vincent Tanui, John Onyango, John Otingo, and David Towet of leading an illegal demonstration by hundreds of protesters who marched from the railways area to the Rift Valley Coordinator George Natembea's office. The police claimed that the demonstrations were carried out against the COVID-19 regulations, which are meant to prevent a further spread of the deadly disease. The protesters were demanding for accountability of the COVID-19 fund when the anti-riot police arrived.
Because of theft that is happening in this county, because of theft that is happening in Kenya, donors are withdrawing their support. And as we said, when that withdrawal happens, it's the poor people who will die. Yes. As patriots, We are not going to sit aside.
For how long will we run? For how long will we be afraid? So we are here to say that enough is enough. The money that we pay as taxes must be returned to us as Kenyans.
We are standing in solidarity with the healthcare workers, with Kenya, with the police, who cannot afford a mask.
Yes.
We are standing in solidarity with the police, who cannot afford a sanitizer. We are standing with solidarity, who have been misused. Wao wanajitasirisha, ninyi mko hapa kutusumbua na tear gas. Nani hapa amekula bilioni moja? Hakuna hata mmoja.
Well, that is still talking of the COVID-19 funds and whatever is happening, the illegal acquisition of money, to use good words there. All right, in other news, pastoral parliamentary groups have insisted on a win-win revenue allocation formula, noting that they will not settle for reduced revenues. The MPs exuded confidence to the 12-member committee that was set up by the Senate to unlock the stalemate. The chairperson of the group, Alois Lentoimaga, said cutting any funds to the north would be as good as taking back the grain of devolution. The MPs said the equalization fund will not conclusively address issues of the counties that are being raised.
Devolution brought some semblance of equity. And if you go back again to talk about a reduction of money, it's very unfair. We appreciate the 360 billion that was allocated last time. That is not enough, but it's better than what they are trying to do now. Senate is trying to do now. And we are all being told also it's not the CRA that is doing this reduction. It's a committee which is whose recommendation did not even go through the budget or rather a finance committee. It's just cooked from some fellows, some cartels.
So our main concern is to ensure that we don't leave any county or any part of this country behind. We are all in Kenya and we are part and parcel of this great country. So let us not try to impute issues which really does not concern the real Kenyans.
Most of the pastoralists, the region, occupy very fast land. Are they saying we don't want fast land as Kenyans? It's a very sad situation. But Kenyans supported this constitution. They voted for the current constitution. And this month, on the 27th of August, this constitution will be 10 years. Are they aiming to celebrate, to reduce the gains we made in celebrating 10 years? No, we should not allow.
Well, the sitting of the revenue allocation will be taking place tomorrow in the Senate, and let us wait and see what the outcome of that will be. And on the question that we are asking today, Zainabu, you're saying, I find it ironic for WHO to advise Kenya to reopen schools, as they are they education experts. Have they advised the rest of the world to do the same? Zainabu, thank you so much for that. Akisara, it's so unfortunate of all these complaints that are falling on deaf ears. This is concerning the issue of strikes and also the COVID-19 funds. Thank you so much, Miriam, for tuning in today. This is okay. Unasema Magoha should tread carefully, especially when responding to pivotal education sponsors. His his attitude will cost us. Let him exercise more decorum. This is this is Boraya from Miritini SGR Terminus in Mombasa. Thank you so much for your response. Alafu pia niko na Steve from Gilgil. Thank you for your response. This is Paris. You're saying a very important point here about the reopening of schools. It's hard to predict because from the look of things, protective measures are slowly being ignored by our community. People are getting back to normal. Fear of COVID is slowly dying each day. For WHO to announce the reopening of schools, it seems they too have gotten tired of the disease and they are helpless with no clue. I therefore think it is a good chance not to sit back and allow God to do what he does best. To sit back and allow God what he does, to do what he does best. That is taking control of the situation. Thank you so much, Paris, for your response. And you're saying, this is Beth from Nakuru, the CS has a point, but at the same time, why would the government want children to be taught under Nyumba Kumi? They should have a stand. And also, thank you so much, Hesbon, for tuning in and for welcoming me back. Asante sana. Well, as I earlier promised, why do we have police brutality cases in our country? And could our police could they be independent? They are supposed to be independent. So what happens when we have police brutality and also cases of police officers being politically influenced? I earlier on talked to one Boniface, and this is what he had to say about that. Service was termed and named as a service, and not a Kenya Police Force, from Kenya Police Force to Kenya Police Service. And right now, that means that it should be independent. So, from your point of view, do you think that the police service is independent, and especially from any political affiliations or influences?
Thank you very much for hosting me on this program. Regarding the question you've just asked, whether it's true the police service in Kenya moved from being police force to police service because of the new constitution and the constitutional changes that the country implemented in 2010. Now, in terms of being apolitical or being free from political influences, I don't think I have any evidence or fact to say in law, National Police Service is independent. I don't think I have personally any evidence to show that someone else out in the political system is influencing the police.
Yeah.
The fact that I know is that in the Constitution, Police Act and all the other legal frameworks actually have, including we have Independent Police Oversight Commission that is overseeing the National Police Service. We have the National Police Service Commission that is also made up of civilians and police. So in terms of institutions that police accountability requires, we have more than enough institutions. So in that sense, I will comfortably say that our police service is accountable because we have institutions. That some of the institutions are not even made of police officers. So if there is a problem, then these civilians who are working on these oversight boards, they're supposed to be the ones now to tell the police or the public about what is the missing link. But so far, according to the Constitution, our police service is an independent institution.
All right. And the reason as to why I brought up the point of being politically influenced is, let's take, for example, what was happening last week. And we had the arrest of the senators. And stories are, and even from the media, we can see that they were taken around for quite some time. And the reason why this was happening is because of the ongoing bill discussion of the allocation of finances. And you know what, some of the Kenyans and even political parties came out to say that this could not be done if the police were independent. So looking at it from that angle, I don't know what you think about it.
Yes, I know there has been that kind of conversation.
Yes.
But I can tell you the same story applies for other countries. In the US, you saw George Floyd being a knee, police officer placing their knee on his neck, and he died. Now, the US is supposed to be one of the most progressive countries with the most progressive constitutions in the world.
Yeah.
So police brutality or police excesses, I don't think they really have so much to do with independence as everyone believes. People believe if you make police independent, then you are going... It's like the media. Is the media independent or is it influenced by politicians?
We must say there is some influence there.
Yeah. Yeah, for example, you have media stations that are owned by political families, this kind of stuff. We cannot say that just because they own these media houses, then they are going to call an editor and tell them, do what I want. But what we are saying is that with the police, independence is there, but abuse of power by those, for example, politicians, is not something we can say can never happen.
Yeah.
Even in the most advanced democracies, including even places like the US, where Trump was saying when there were riots because of George Floyd, he commanded the police to shoot people, on the street in the United States. So we are not saying, I can't authoritatively say whether our police has been given orders by politicians, but I know, I am very sure, and I know in our constitution there is legislation that was removed, was changed by members of parliament to actually give certain officers authority, over, for example, the Inspector General of Police. So the Inspector General of Police office is also working in consonant with other offices. So it's not just isolated.
All right.
Even though the law has made it clear that is an independent office.
All right, and you've talked about the Inspector General, and there are also some bodies like IPOA that are supposed to be being the watchguard or the watchdog of the police officers. And you talked about excessive force. And I would like to connect that to the issue of police brutality. As much as we have been fighting this for quite some time, you've also pointed out the story of George Floyd that happened in the US. And why do you think we still have these cases?
We still have these cases because I look at these things from what we call the trauma lens. So trauma affects individuals and institutions. And what happens is that if you have broken down institutions, it means that the most traumatized institutions, and including individuals. So police, the notion of the philosophy behind policing is not that police officers are the ones who are going to make all crimes disappear. The problem with what people have is that people have really put a lot of emphasis on policing work. They can just wave a magic wand and then all the crime issues disappear.
Yeah.
Police are individuals who are also caught up in social contexts that are very traumatized contexts. For example, if you're a police officer in this kind of a country, for example, every 5 years you have to contend with rioting groups.
Yeah, sure.
Because they agree on election outcomes, You have also to be, you have to work in places that are very crime riddled, for example, because young people don't have jobs, and then they don't have a choice. They say because of trauma, trauma removes choice from a person. So a person says, because I don't have a choice, then I'm going to engage in crime. And I'm being reminded about one of the most powerful sayings that we say in our work, we are a trauma-organized nation.
Trauma-organized nation. Hey, yes. That's quite sad, it's funny and sad at the same time. Trauma-organized nation.
We are a trauma-organized nation, and it affects every system. So our problems are structural problems where we have broken, institutions that don't work, not because people wake up in the morning and say no, we don't want to make the institutions to work, but because of trauma, different types of trauma, historical trauma, for example.
Yeah.
How did the service begin in Kenya? When did our state begin? How did we transition from the colonial state to the current state and to the to the state that now we have now? So it's a lot of, including institutions. The police service was police force.
Yeah.
Now it is police service. And it's a work in progress. We are learning. Even police officers themselves are also victims of these systems.
Yeah.
So it's not that they are the ones who are. We can never take problems of an entire system-wide. We cannot take problems of an entire society. In this country, we like doing that. You can't take broken down systems and then blame on one individual. This is what we like.
And in this point, we are blaming it now on the police.
On the police, we say it is the police. And then the police also, if they are really put in the corner, they say it is the citizens.
So it's a blame game between the police and the citizens.
It's actually called the cycles of violence.
Wow.
The cycles of violence, you have victims and aggressors, but you don't have like a clear-cut line between victims and aggressors.
Yeah.
In one instance, the victim becomes an aggressor in another.
Mm-hmm.
A police officer is also a victim, for example, of maybe, let us say, abuse of power or structural commands that really don't value him, you know?
Yeah.
But he's also like, so he's a victim of many, he might be a victim of a broken down family.
Mm-hmm.
Because a police, you're a husband and your family is disintegrated family situations, then you're also a victim of social family breakdown.
Yeah.
They might also be victims of, for example, corrupt citizens who want to buy their way out of doing things,
Mm-hmm.
you know? They want to engage in illicit business, and therefore they want the police officer to be the one who is going to open the door for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in that sense, the police officer becomes a victim.
Mm-hmm.
So the line between victim and perpetrator in traumatized societies is very thin.
Mm-hmm.
In one, you cannot say we are the good guys, they are the bad guys.
Yeah.
The line keeps shifting.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, what we need to deal with is to address the underlying causes of violence, cycles of violence,
Okay.
which comprises entire societies, leading to people lacking choices to choose non-violence over violence.
I like that. And hold on to that thought, Kidogo. Now, you have talked about the oppressor being now
Yes.
the oppressed. In my own words, the oppressor being the oppressed, and in this case we have the police officers. And let's take, for instance, and literally what is happening in our society, and we've seen it, it's very visible that when you look at the living standard of our police officers, not talking about their salary, just look at the living standard. You know, some of these houses, we have seen mabati houses. I've also come across some police houses that are literally mbao. You know, and this wood most of the time is even eaten by the ants, you know. And also, allow me to ask, in your knowledge, are there any organizations or programs that are supposed to help police officers cope with whatever is disturbing them? We talked about a family breakdown. We talked about the poor conditions that they're living in. Is there a certain program that maybe is organized by the service or even the government to help our police officers when it comes to these challenges that they're having?
Yeah, this is a very good question.
Yeah.
So we are an non-governmental organization. We are called the Green Spring Network. And when we worked with members of the community, we worked on a program called Kumekucha with the community members, where now we were looking at the issues, the cycles of violence that have really dogged our society, and they are making people to lack choices and choose, for example, crime and violence. For example, violent extremism or gender-based violence, or becoming members of gangs in most of the informal settlements in Mombasa, in Nairobi. And whenever we spoke with them, because every time many of these people in the community, they are always maybe being arrested by the police.
Yeah.
Or have encounters. They have very negative encounters with the police because they are on the wrong side of the law. Not because they love to be criminals, also, just because also they are faced by difficult choices in that trauma that limits their choices of choosing non-violence over violence for their life. How does that impact on your mental well-being and resilience to this kind of work? But we also look at, for example, what are some of the things, because it's not just because we are the ones who give police instruments or tools, capacity to withstand toxic experiences.
Environments and experiences.
Police themselves have sometimes they have devised positive resilience resources. Some of them, the National Police Service actually has an office for chaplaincy counseling and support for police officers. So we started to engage this office, and we worked with the head of this office within the National Police Service. We also worked with some leaders in, for example, Police Internal Affairs Unit, because we realized we need also police accountability units also to be part of this journey, the journey of information and mean for them. When has ever a police officer felt that they were a victim? You know, we ask them this, or as an aggressor. And we discovered, and then we look at not just victim and aggressor, but we look at how can you break out of these cycles of violence.
Yeah.
And then we discovered, like, in breaking out cycle of violence for police, they gave us more things that can be done to be able to break out of the cycles of violence.
So it's a process, if I'm getting you right.
It's a process. It's not a one event.
Mm-hmm. And sorry, we have to wind up because of the time.
We have a saying that says healing work is not linear. It's not a linear process.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a messy process that leads into better things.
Okay. I like that. It's not a linear process. It could be messy, but it will lead to something good.
Yes.
So there is hope for our police, and especially when we talk about being independent and help to stop police brutality.
Yes.
All right. Well, you have something to say before we wind up?
I just wanted to say, actually, so police are healers themselves. Like, through our work, police officers become healers of other police officers. So they hold space for other police officers. But at the end of the day, it's not just that. They also hold space for members of the community. This is what we are envisioning. Because police cannot heal in isolation. Neither can members of the community heal in isolation. The healing work is between members of the community and the police. And that is what we are looking at, bringing healing at ward level and station level.
I like that. Police and the members of the community, we both heal together. Thank you so much.
One.
Sorry?
We heal as one.
We heal as one. Thank you so much, Boniface. Thank you for that insight and giving us such useful information. We can also help our police officers. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
You too.
Okay, bye. Well, that is Boniface from Green String Organization, and we cannot blame the police for a broken system. That is what he says. One person cannot be blamed for something that is big. We all play a part. Well, thank you so much, Boniface, for joining us and actually giving us that information. Now, before we end this show, Diaz, do you have group prayers and what we call morning prayers in your company? So some of the companies that we know, or maybe even in your company, you have prayers in the morning, what we call the prayer sessions. Well, this could be good, especially when it comes to the growing of faith of people in these companies. And there are actually very many corporate organizations in the US that are doing this, and this is the explanation.
They're not there to substitute for church or for going to synagogue or some other place of worship, but they're there to give support to employees, recognizing that if you bring your whole self to work, including your faith, that you're more likely to stick at the job, be excited about the job, and it gives you insights into customers and clients and your fellow employees, even if they're a different faith. Where you have a more open society to matters of faith, giving people the freedom to have a faith or change their faith, or even have no faith at all, that coincides with more innovative thinking. It also coincides with a more robust civil society, all of which are important factors for having an economy that's built to last.
And it's a great message to go out to university campuses and to talk about diversity and inclusion at your company, to be able to say we have faith-based initiatives.
All right, that is happening in the US, and it can also happen in your company. How about you be the one to introduce that? Thank you so much for tuning in to This Is The Day. Remember, Prayer Circle with Pastor Benjamin Waka is coming in next after this on live on Family TV and also live on Family Radio. So send in your prayer requests and also your praise reports. I know that he will be hosting one Pastor Emma. You do not want to miss out on that. Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Otieno.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.